That all said, I did want to go ahead and get right into talking about something that is really, really perplexing. This is Elon Musk's weird conversation from inside the White House. I'm sure you guys have already seen a bunch of content creators talk about this already, but I mean, I haven't done it yet, so here we go. But first, let's get into the fan art section. This one is from Reina the Villain. Said, hey, it's me again, the evil-ass motherfucker known as the Villain or Reina. I decided to make a Hero Factory adaptation of your avatar, and apologies if it appears unfaithful to the source material. Since I use Savage Planet Stringer's mask, I guess it's a part of the lore that Suris' more masculine side has some bear-like traits now. I mean, people have described me as a bear, but that's mostly because I'm fat, so Anyway, the next one we have here is from Riddle of Lightning, and it is what I did on Discord a few days ago, and everyone, no one can stop me. So the context behind this is I added everybody mentioning the political meeting with the Democrats in District 14 of Georgia that I was going to be in attendance of. And somebody responded with, hey, isn't that a political post? Because there is a rule in my Discord, because I wanted my Discord to be a chill place, that you don't really want to talk about politics in my Discord. I'm getting a little more lenient on that in terms of political organization stuff, but with that rule there, somebody did respond saying, hey, you're not supposed to talk about politics, and didn't even realize that it was me, the channel owner, who had added everybody to talk about politics. Jesus. Anyway, thank you all for your submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have to see here.
To reporters, he's also signing some new executive. President Donald Trump is now speaking to reporters. He's also signing some new executive orders as well. And he is joined by Elon Musk and his son in his office this time. So let's go ahead and listen in.
And we're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge. And I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Okay.
And I think it's very important, and that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said we're going to do that. Nobody had any.
Remember the last time he said we're going to drain the swamp, and he didn't do that? Anyway.
The idea was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of...
Van Briggs, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl, and thank you, Nami, for the hydrate.
Millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. And we want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that.
I mean, it seems hard to believe that the judicial branch would do its job as a checks and balance against the president. Also, can I just say, so there is a man who I used to respect, who I will not name because he does not deserve the attention, but who was fucking defending Trump on Facebook the other day based on the fact that why would you want somebody from the judicial branch to be able to meddle with the executive branch? And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you an idiot? Did you not remember what checks and balances are supposed to be? Aren't you ex-military? Shouldn't this be basic shit you know? You dumbass nuclear engineer? Anyway.
Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, if you say, what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of this the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy?
So, just so you guys didn't miss it, here is what people are thinking that Elon's kid said to Trump right there. You're not the president and you need to go away. We'll play that part right here.
To restore democracy. To restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy? To restore democracy.
So I don't necessarily hear it personally. But apparently other people are hearing the kids say, you're not the president and you need to go away. Again, I am not 100% hearing that there, but I am hearing the you need to go away part at the end. That part is very, very, very obvious. How do you feel knowing that that the real president of the United States, Elon Musk's kid, is just shitting on you the entire time?
See, well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we'd have to, if you, sorry, so tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good,
I like how he hasn't fucking said anything yet either. Like, okay, if there's one thing Elon is not good at, it is speaking without a script. This man is mumbling and stammering over every possible fucking thing when all he should be saying, and I quote, let's quick do this as a fun experiment. If you were Elon in the situation, here's what you say and here's how you say it. When I took over the organization, I assumed that there would be a little bit of corruption in the area. It would have made a lot of sense to be able to find some of that had fallen through the cracks. Instead, what I have found is not millions of dollars, but billions of dollars of wasted potential in the United States government. And what I am going to be doing with my position as the acting head of Doge is finding a better place for all of that money to be allocated so that it is put to good use within the United States government. I think that the taxpayers should have their money working towards a good end, and as of right now, I am finding several areas where there is not a good end that these funds are being used for. Some of those areas are, and then he can list U.S. aid and try to fucking defend that dumb decision. That's all he had to do. That's all he had to do. That took me 30 seconds, maybe more than 30 seconds. Somebody can clip it and tell me if it is or is not 30 seconds. That's all you have to do. I have had very minimal, very, very minimal public speaking training. And that training happened when I was in middle school. That's it. And I can do a better job at this than Elon goddamn Musk, who has all the money in the world to pay for all of the best trainers and all of the best scriptwriters to do this for him. I ad-libbed better than him with 40 seconds of prep.
feedback loop from the people to the government. And if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their...
I like how he says, if the bureaucracy's in charge, then what meaning does the vote actually have? As he is literally an unelected person in the government right now, making decisions that none of us fucking voted on.
They will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House. Then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy.
No, we live in an oligarchy because people with money were able to buy their positions.
So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy.
You're talking about yourself, my guy. I just really hope you know you're talking about yourself. Also, people in my chat seem to be under the impression, and maybe it's true, I'm not 100% certain, but people seem to be under the impression that Elon's been keeping his kid with him more and more often ever since the incident with Luigi, with our government, where he, killed a United CEO. Apparently, child shields are in vogue for people in the United States CEO class now.
This is not to say that there aren't there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And so...
Watch his son slowly drift further and further to Trump.
If you asked look at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected...
Paige says, well, that shield's kind of small. It's not that the shield is or is not small. It's that it's a whole lot harder for anybody in the United States growing up with the way that we value children here to feel like they can engage in violence when somebody has a kid strapped to their hip. It is not an impossibility, but it is not something that most people are willing to engage in.
Fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is...
The bureaucracy actually has more power than the elected representatives. My guy, it's called a checks and balance. There are people in the judicial branch who are not elected, who have as much power as people in the executive branch. Well, I mean, the one person in the executive branch, and as people do have in the Congress. It just depends on which item we are currently talking about, which laws we are currently putting on the table, as to how much power they have to veto and check each other.
This is not something that people want, and it's not. It does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's.
But it won't, though, Elon. The thing about the national debt, the thing about the national deficit, is we always end up raising that ceiling. And for some reason, every single time we have Democrats in power, we lower the deficit. And every time Republicans are in power, we raise the deficit. I would be very interested to see 2 years from now what our deficit looks like under Trump.
Really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense, but if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses; it's essential.
So I just want to show you guys something really funny. Really, really funny. Just absolutely hilarious. All things considered. Also, Admiral Chernu, thank you very much for the follow. So, if we look at the deficit for the last 20 years, 2000, we actually, coming off the Clinton years, we were in the positive at the end of the Clinton years. And then Bush administration comes and we peak at $0.7 trillion in the deficit at the end of his first term. His second term, the deficit manages to go down a little bit. And right as Obama gets elected, he inherits the economy from the previous president with a $2 trillion deficit. And then Obama's years happen. From 2009, 0.02 trillion, or 0.2 trillion, are slashed out of the deficit. Then 0.4 trillion is slashed out of the deficit by the end of Obama's first administration. Going to 2015, getting into the end of Obama's administration, the federal deficit had been lowered back to 0.6 trillion. You can literally see the trend begin, the trend ends, and then Trump gets elected. Right about here, between 16 and 17. And then right about here, COVID happens. 2020 is a year where Trump is in office. COVID affects the majority of his presidency, or the majority of that last year of his presidency. And then Biden gets in office, and oh man, that's so weird. 0.5 trillion of the deficit goes away? Holy shit. And in his next year in office, he cuts the deficit in half. Oh my God. Isn't that so weird? Isn't that so strange? Biden managed to slash that deficit he inherited from Trump in half. And then starts getting worse in 2023. I don't have the numbers for 2024 here. But it is still not at Trump's peak. Our last surplus was under a Democratic president at the exact moment that Bush inherited his economy from Clinton. Without fail, you will always see this trend happen. I would be very, very confused if this trend did not continue into Trump's presidency. And God, isn't it so fucking funny how easy it is to find the numbers on this? To see exactly what those numbers look like and to know exactly where they came from? That's so weird. That's so strange that it happens within the last 20 years at such a predictable level. Anyway.
It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
et cetera?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy.
Get to the point, Elon!
Who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from?
Elon, you are worth several hundreds of billions of dollars. Where did that come from? Trump started out with a net worth of $2 billion in the presidency and is now worth several more. Where did that come from? I like how when it's an unnamed, unlisted, unknown bureaucrat, we can paint them as a villain. But when there's an actual bureaucrat and an oligarch right here who have had this exact thing that Elon is talking about happen in their lifetimes, that's not something that needs to be investigated. Absolutely not, no.
And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, if you look at, say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got
a massive number of blank checks apparently flying out the building. Now, does he present any evidence of this? No, we just kind of have to take his word for it. I wonder if he's going to actually present evidence of blank checks flying out of United States administrative buildings.
Comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known...
Would you like to name any of them, Mr. Elon, or are we just gonna say vaguely who they might be and then let people paint their own ideas of who these fraudsters or terrorists are?
Things that do not match any congressional appropriation can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything just...
I like how he has to put all of this groundwork for his particular fantasy. I do not deny that there is a chance that the United States government has paid money to fraudsters, right? Scams happen. Human beings do this shit all the time. However, I like how he came to this speech prepared with nothing but his wits. He could have brought a graph. He could have brought an example. He could have brought anything. He chose not to. He chose to bring zero proof of anything at all. And he may be correct. I don't personally know. I'm just gonna venture to guess just a whittle itty bitty bit that maybe, just maybe, there's a bit of bullshit here.
They approve all the payments at Treasury.
Briar Saturn, thank you for redeeming your points for an ada, you fucking degen.
Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out.
This is another one that I would like some evidence for, just a little bit. So let's double check this one real quick. Regarding the program, Musk said there's crazy things, cross re-examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. He didn't provide any evidence of this. BBC Verify has been unable to find any specific evidence for this claim. Although we don't have access to all of the U.S. Social Security data that Musk has been granted, he says, I think they're probably dead. Then there's the whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. There have been previous reports which have identified tens of billions of dollars of fraud in Social Security payments, but we have found no specific evidence of 150-year-olds claiming these benefits. So it's almost like how Velas pointed out, with the size of the United States government, with the amount of money that flows in and out of the government, it is likely there is fraud. It is likely there are problems. It is likely you will identify dollars that have left the system that shouldn't have. But when you make specific claims, like 150-year-old people, a significant amount of them, so much so that they are worth bringing up. So if you find one or two, that's not a significant amount. I find that funny. I find that very funny. Again, it is likely there is fraud in the United States government. It is unlikely that what Elon is referring to as fraud is what's happening in the United States government. Also, look at the shit-eating smile on this guy's face. He's just like, man, I hope he gives me a cookie. I hope me, as a billionaire, gets a cookie from this other billionaire. Also, just real quick, that's another really funny thing. We have a billionaire for the first time, second time, in the Oval Office. And his lackey is just another goddamn billionaire. And who's his vice president? An ex-rich dude from Silicon fucking Valley. I don't want to be in America anymore. This place sucks. Tega, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Fennec says, if someone was 150 years old, that would be on the news. Again, Fennec, that's not the point. I think we're maybe taking the words he's saying actually seriously. What he's referring to is the idea that somebody should have stopped receiving Social Security ages ago because their legal age has hit 150. So he's using that as a definition of fraud. I'm saying I doubt that there's enough of that to matter. Admiral Chinaru says, I'm sorry, but getting out of the States is about as hard as getting into it from what I have seen. I disagree. From what you have seen, but from what you have tried? That's the difference there. So, like, here's the thing. Right now, if you're trying to get out of the United States, and maybe that's the actionable thing, because there was one other, like, Elon Musk's kid did a thing during this that I want to cover very briefly.
From one year to the next are the same, and they're
This one I did hear. Him saying to Trump, "I want you to shush your mouth."
the same, and from one year to the next are the same, and they're
That one I did hear very distinctly. So I did want to get that one out of the way before I continue on here. Here's the actionable thing. If you are of a minority group that is likely to be threatened by the United States, the thing you should be looking forward to right now is getting your passport. Now, here's the problem. A lot of people have noted that it's harder for them to get their passports because of the security systems that are currently in place that are attaching birth certificates to voting and passports and everything else. If your driver's license doesn't match, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I implore you, and Erin Reed has gone on about this on her Twitter as well. I implore you, if you are getting a passport to get out of the United States, use the name that is on your birth certificate. Fuck it, misgender yourself if you have to. I don't give a shit. Your safety is worth more than your identity. In this particular instance. If you feel unsafe in the US and you feel you need to leave, I understand where you're coming from, and I even agree with you that it is a good idea to go to safer pastures. But if in doing so you kneecap yourself, that is a problem that needs to be solved before you ever sit down for that passport interview. And if you think I am wrong, then you are living in a different reality than I am. I am living in the reality where I want you to be safe. And if you are living in the reality where you get to die by your principles, then there is a word in that sentence that you are going to be exemplifying more often than the others. Scarlet Necromancer says, even when trans people use their dead gender, they're still getting denied passports. I haven't exactly seen evidence of that. Now, there are instances, as of right now, where people's birth certificate and licenses are not matching up specifically, and therefore they are being denied passport. When that is the case, that is an issue. But right now, you need to take whichever option you can that will allow you to get out of the country safely. If a country is not willing to keep you safe and keep you healthy and keep you supported, then that is something that the country need not do anymore. And vacating the country is a way to do that. Again, it's not saying that it's not going to happen. I am just saying stack the deck in your favor. It's not an impossibility that you're going to get denied anyway. But right now, you need to be doing everything in your power to stack that deck in your favor, because it is quite literally is a matter of your personal safety. And as I have said before, I am infinitely more concerned with your personal safety. If you are a trans person in the United States planning on leaving, the leaving time is now, or at least the getting the passport so that you can leave. That time is now. That time should have been earlier. If there are reasons you haven't been able to, I completely understand. Saki and I have been running into issues with getting ours. I get it. If you are planning on staying in the United States, with as bad as things are getting, then your options should be arming yourself. Your options should be making sure that you are safe. Your options should be making sure that you are as politically involved as you can be if you are comfortable, and as stealthy as you can be if you aren't. Your objective is survive. And I hate to word it that way. Admiral says, you're completely going unheard due to ads, my friend. Well, good news. There are people who are subscribed. They are still getting the message. And this video will be allowed on YouTube. So they'll get the message there as well. Black Rose says, it looks like Doge is preparing to fuck the military. We aren't doomed yet. Yay. Oh, yeah, the whole, like, we're going to buy a bunch of armored Teslas thing. Yeah, that's going to work so well for them. That's going to work super well. Fetty says the armored Teslas was so goofy. Yup. That all said, stay safe out there. Please do not vocalize what your plans are to stay safe. I'd like to say do something in the comment section so that videos can get out there to more people. I would like people to subscribe, to go over to my Patreon, all that other fun stuff. But for God's sake, if you have a protection plan, do not vocalize what that plan is. Anyway, as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full-time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravelern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press, though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.